Okay, so what we need to do now, as I was telling in the last lecture, is to work with domains which probably include the point at infinity. Okay, so so this is an important turning point, a little technical, but it's very easily understandable. So all this time, so let me say a few things. When you probably do a first course in complex analysis, you are working with a domain, you are working with a function which is defined on a domain in the complex plane, okay, which means it's defined on an open connected set, of course non-empty, okay, and the function is taking complex values, okay. But then we want to work not just with analytic functions, we want to work with meromorphic functions, and the problem with the meromorphic function is at a pole the function goes to infinity, and therefore at a pole you don't get continuity, okay. So you are forced to include the point at infinity in the codomain of the function, okay, and that leads you to look at functions with values in the extended complex plane, okay. So that's what we have been doing so far. What we have been doing so far is we have been looking at functions which are defined on a domain in the complex plane, okay, but taking values in the extended complex plane, alright, and for such functions we have proved a lot of theorems. So for example, we have proved that we have proved that if you have a family of functions which converges normally, okay, then if all the functions are analytic, that is holomorphic, then the limit function is either analytic or it is identically infinity. Similarly, if all the functions are meromorphic, okay, then the limit function is either meromorphic or it is identically infinity. And then we have proved, of course, Montel's theorem that if all if the functions are all analytic, if you have a family of analytic functions, okay, then every sequence admits a normally convergent subsequence if and only if the family of that family is normally uniformly bounded, okay, that is uniformly bounded on compact subsets. That was Montel's theorem. And then we also proved Marty's theorem, which is much more stronger, namely you take a family of meromorphic functions and assume that then the condition that any sequence in that admits a normally convergent subsequence is equivalent to the spherical derivatives being normally bounded, and we resort to spherical derivatives because for meromorphic functions usual derivatives will not be defined at the poles, okay. So in all these statements, the domain of the functions was always a subset of the complex plane, and but of course the codomain we took it to be the extended complex plane, and mind you, therefore what's happening is in the domain the metric you're looking at is the usual Euclidean metric, because after all it's a subset of the complex plane where you have the Euclidean metric, whereas in the codomain the metric you're looking at is the spherical metric, because the codomain is the extended complex plane, it's identified via the stereographic projection with the Riemann sphere, and you actually take the spherical metric on the Riemann sphere, alright, which is the distance between 2 points being given by the length of the minor arc of the greater circle on the Riemann sphere passing through those 2 points, okay. So this is a setup of things. Now what we want to do is we want to extend all these theorems, okay, to the domain, not only a domain in the complex plane, but you want to extend it to a domain in the extended complex plane, okay. That's the next step. That means you are now allowing infinity as a value of the variable. You are allowing infinity in the domain, okay, and you want to write out you want the same results again, and the fact is it's true, it will work. All these results will be true for a domain even in the extended complex plane, but then we need to fix it, okay. So I'll tell you where the problem lies. The problem lies in let's try to be naive, and usually the advantage of being naive is that you will think naturally, okay, and the disadvantage is it may not work, but the advantage is that you will know where you go wrong and then you can correct yourself, okay. So there is always an advantage to being naive in the first place. So suppose D is a domain in the extended complex plane, okay, and certainly I am looking at a domain which contains the point at infinity, okay, because if it does not contain a point at infinity, then it is a usual domain, and I have all the theorems for usual domains in the complex plane I have already proved, okay. So let me look at a domain in the extended complex plane which contains a point at infinity, okay. Now I can just say a sequence of functions converges normally on the domain if it converges on compact subsets. This is the usual definition, okay, but the problem is that this definition will not work. Why it will not work is because if you take a compact subset of a domain, even if you take a domain in the extended complex plane, that compact subset cannot contain the point at infinity, because any neighborhood of infinity is unbounded, you understand. So therefore the problem is that if you say a family of functions, or suppose you are looking at a sequence of functions, and if you say it normally converges on a domain which contains the point at infinity, actually you are not taking care of the normal convergence at infinity, because when you say it normally converges, what does it mean? It means that it is converging on compact subsets, uniformly convergent on compact subsets. But what are compact subsets of a domain even in the extended complex plane? See, if you look at it with respect to the usual Euclidean plane, okay, no neighborhood of infinity, okay, can be a compact subset of the usual plane, okay. So what is happening is that even if you naively define that a sequence of functions is converging normally on a domain containing the point at infinity, what you are actually defining is only that it is that this sequence of functions is converging normally only on the domain, the punctured domain with the point at infinity removed, okay. So you are not able to take care of normal convergence at infinity, that is the problem, okay. So how do you tackle this? So the way of tackling this is again the same old philosophy of how to tackle the point at infinity. You tackle the point at infinity by inverting the variable and looking at the point at 0, okay. So whenever you want to study f of z at z equal to infinity, what was the original idea? We studied f of 1 by w at w equal to 0, and when the moment, so the neighborhood of infinity will translate to a neighborhood of 0, and the neighborhood of 0 is again now a good old neighborhood in the good old complex plane, and you can do work with it. We have already proved theorems there, okay. So here is the definition. So the definition is, suppose D is a domain in the extended complex plane containing the point infinity. When do I say a sequence of functions converges normally on D? I say that I have to say it in two pieces. I have to first say that the convergence is normal on D minus infinity, okay, that is throw away infinity, you are throwing away one point, okay. So it is still an open set, okay. Mind you, infinity is a closed point if you look at in the extended complex plane, which is identified with the Riemann sphere. The infinity is identified with the north pole on the Riemann sphere, okay. So you take D minus infinity, that's a nice domain in the complex plane, okay. It's going to, just by removing a point you cannot make it disconnected, okay, and because it's open, okay. So it's still going to be open connected. So it's a domain in the complex plane. You require that on that domain punctured at infinity the given family converges normally, okay, which means you are requiring that there is uniform convergence on compact subsets of domain, on compact subsets of the plane which intersect D, that's all, okay. That's one condition. The second condition is you take the same sequence of functions, change the variable from z to 1 by w, and say that converges normally in a neighborhood of the origin, okay. So you give a definition outside infinity, and you give a definition in a neighborhood of infinity by translating it to a neighborhood of 0, and this is the definition that we will make, and this is the definition that works, okay. You will see that with this definition you can translate all the theorems that we have proved. You can just use all the theorems that you have proved so far to get theorems for the case when the domain includes the point at infinity, okay. So let me write this down. So, so the next thing is let me use a different color. Normal convergence at infinity. So, let Fn of z be a sequence of continuous functions I do not even need continuous, let me just say a sequence of functions on a domain D of the extended complex plane with infinity in the domain, okay, and taking values in the extended complex plane, okay. So, basically you can think of Fn as a sequence defined on an an open on a domain on the Riemann sphere and taking values on the Riemann sphere. If you think of the extended complex plane as a Riemann sphere, you can think that your source is a domain, it's an open connected set on the Riemann sphere, okay. Your D is on the Riemann sphere, it's an open connected set that contains the north pole, which is supposed to correspond to the point at infinity, and you have these functions, each of these functions are defined on that D, and they are taking values again in the Riemann sphere, which means they can take the value infinity, okay. So, so you take a sequence of functions. So when do we say that this sequence converges normally on D? So let me write that down. We say that Fn converges normally on D if number one Fn, so the sequence Fn converges normally on D minus infinity, which is D minus infinity is a domain in the good old complex plane, okay, and you know defining convergence on a domain in the complex plane is something that we have already done. It's just uniform convergence on compact subsets, okay, and this and is very important. Number two, okay, Fn of 1 by W, okay, converges normally in a neighborhood of W equal to 0. So here is the so this second statement is what actually takes care of normal convergence at infinity, and it's very beautiful, because normal convergence at infinity means you should ensure uniform convergence on compact subsets of infinity, okay, but the problem is there is no compact subset of infinity that you can think of in the usual complex plane. You can think of it only on the Riemann sphere. So if you want to translate it back to the usual complex plane, you have to translate from neighborhoods of infinity to neighborhoods of 0 by making this inversion, z going to 1 by z, which is W, okay. So you replace z by 1 by W, right. So this is the definition, all right. Now comes now you see this definition is piecewise. What you have done is you have got normal convergence outside infinity. That is the first statement, because outside infinity in the domain is again a domain in the usual complex plane. You have no problems with that. And the second part of the definition says you have convergence, normal convergence at infinity, okay. That is what the second one says, because after all, studying Fn of 1 by W at W equal to 0, neighborhood of W equal to 0 is the same as studying f of z in a neighborhood of infinity, alright. But because it is a neighborhood of 0, I know what converges normally means, okay, fine. Now so this is the right definition, and this definition works, so I'll put this as DEF for definition, okay. So this definition works, but then there are certain remarks that need to be made, so that you realize that you always make a definition. If a definition has to suit a particular condition, you make a twist in the definition. Then you have to check whether your definition is consistent. So one of the things that you can ask is the following: since I have defined the normal convergence of the sequence in two pieces, can it happen that on each piece I get a different limit function? You can ask that, and the answer is no. You cannot. If you're working with continuous functions, this cannot happen because of continuity. Okay, that's so this definition will work properly with continuous functions. Okay, so let me write this down. Suppose so here is a remark. So the remark is, suppose each fn of z is continuous on D. Okay. Then fn converges to a continuous function f on T. Okay, so you get only one function. Okay, and what is the similar statements hold? Similar statements hold. Okay, so let me not say that because I need to expand on that. Okay, so what is the point? What is the proof? The proof is that, well, you see on D minus infinity, okay, fn of z will converge to, well, let's say f of z. All right, and f of z is continuous. This is because of due to normal convergence. Normal limit of continuous functions is continuous, and mind you should consider the limit function f also to be a function with values in the extended complex plane. Okay, and this is because of part 1 of the definition. Now part 2 of the definition will tell you that in a neighborhood of the origin, fn of 1 by w will also converge to something, and I'll call that as g of w. Okay, so also on a neighborhood of w equal to 0, fn of 1 by w converges to gn of w. G of w. So in principle I should expect to get a function g, and again g is continuous at 0, and in fact g is continuous everywhere again, because again I am using just the fact that normal limit of continuous functions is continuous. Okay, so there's only one thing, that for w not equal to 0, okay, z is equal to 1 by w is not infinity. Okay, so z lies in D minus infinity. Okay, and therefore what will happen is, by the uniqueness of limits of a sequence, pointwise you will get that f of z will be equal to g of what is this, g of 1 by z. Okay, so this implies for w not equal to 0, okay, f of 1 by w is the same as g of, so maybe I should call this as, here I'll have to say the following thing. I should call this as gn of w. Okay, I should call gn of w as fn of 1 by w, and gn of w tends to g of w. Okay, and the point is that this g of w is f of 1 by w is g of w. That's what I'm getting. Okay, if I put z equal to 1 by w, right? So, but then you see, and both are continuous at 0. Okay, both are continuous at 0. Mind you, because of continuity, therefore limit w tends to 0. Okay, so what this will tell you is that, so this will tell you that f of infinity will be g of 0. Okay, so so this implies that the limit function is f of z even at infinity. So you get a unique limit. Okay, that's the whole point. So this normal convergence, defining it piecewise, that is one outside infinity and the other one in a neighborhood of infinity by translating to a neighborhood of 0. Okay, though it's a two-piece definition, normal convergence will still give rise to only one function. But mind you, all functions are being taken with values in the extended complex plane, and that in the target the metric you are using is always a spherical metric. Okay, so you know, unless you give a argument like this, okay, things could go wrong. See, after all, I have defined normality separately in two pieces. Normality, I mean normal convergence in two pieces. Okay, and then it could happen that on each piece I could get different limits. At least what this tells you is that it will not happen if your functions are continuous. Okay, and that is going to be the case because we are going to deal only with analytic functions or meromorphic functions, and you know, analytic functions are of course continuous. And even if you recall, even if you take an analytic function at infinity, by definition it is a function which is continuous at infinity. You know, and by a version of the Riemann's removable singularities theorem, saying that a function is analytic at infinity means that it should be bounded at infinity. Okay, so it means that the function value at infinity is a finite complex number. Okay, so analytic function at infinity makes sense. So analytic functions on a domain in the extended complex plane containing the point at infinity makes sense for us. Okay, and similarly meromorphic functions also make sense, because what is a meromorphic function on a domain which contains a point at infinity? It is you see, it is supposed to be a meromorphic function on the punctured domain with the puncture at infinity, and you invert the variable and that should give you a meromorphic function at the origin. Okay, always you go to saying that a function is meromorphic at infinity is saying f of z is meromorphic at infinity. Okay, in a neighborhood of infinity is the same as f of 1 by z is meromorphic at z equal to 0. So you always translate back to at infinity, you always translate back to a neighborhood at 0. So it makes sense. Okay, so meromorphic functions on a domain in the extended complex plane containing the point at infinity makes sense, and all these functions with values in the extended complex plane also make sense. So we are in a perfect situation, and all these functions are all continuous. Mind you, meromorphic functions are continuous because you have allowed at a pole you have defined the function value to be infinity, and you have allowed infinity to be in the codomain of the function. Okay, so we are in the right setup. Now what we need to know is we need to check each of those theorems that we proved. We need to deduce that those theorems also work for such a domain. Okay, so here is the first one. So theorem, let D be a domain in C union infinity and Fn a sequence, so a sequence of holomorphic functions or analytic functions on D taking values in C considered as subset of C union infinity. Okay, if Fn converges to F normally on D, then either F is analytic on D or F is identically infinity on D. Okay, so you see the point is that we have already proved this theorem when D doesn't contain the point infinity. When D is a subset of the usual complex plane, we have already proved this theorem. That is, you take a sequence of analytic functions and you assume that it converges normally, then the limit function has to be either analytic or it will be identically infinity. Okay, and you can't get anything in between. For example, you cannot get a strictly meromorphic function in between. Okay, and the reason is a pole cannot pop up at infinity. I mean in the limit. And if you remember, this was because if you invert the variable, a 0 cannot pop up at the limit because of Hurwitz's theorem. So Hurwitz's theorem is working in the background. Okay, so we'll have to only worry about the case when D contains infinity. That's the extension we are particularly interested in. So let me write that down. We have already proved this. For infinity not belonging to D, so we are the essential thing that, so let the essential thing is we allow infinity to belong to D. Okay. Now now go back to the definition of normal convergence for a domain containing the point at infinity. What is the definition? First thing is you throw out infinity, and on the remaining thing which is a domain in the complex plane there is normal convergence. Okay. And the other thing is that you take a neighborhood of 0 and look at the variable functions of the variable inverted in a neighborhood of 0. Okay. So now so let me write that down. For now for D minus infinity, Fn will converge to F normally. So either F is identically infinity on D minus infinity, or F is analytic on D minus infinity. Okay. This is because of the fact that D minus infinity is a usual domain in the usual complex plane, and for the usual complex plane we have proved such a theorem. Okay. Whenever you have normal convergence of analytic functions, the limit is either identically infinity or it is uniformly an analytic function. Okay. But you know, if F is identically infinity in D minus on D minus infinity, it will also be infinity at infinity because F is continuous. Okay. So we have to only take care of the situation when F is not identically infinity and prove that F is analytic on D on even at infinity. So infinity is the only problem. Okay. So let me write that down. If F is identically infinity on D minus infinity, then by continuity of F on D, F is identically infinity on all of D, because F of infinity will become infinity. Okay. So if F is not identically infinity, infinity becomes an isolated singular point of F. Okay, because mind you, F is analytic on D minus infinity. D minus infinity is a neighborhood of infinity. It's a deleted neighborhood of infinity. D minus infinity is a deleted neighborhood of infinity. Okay, and F is analytic on that. That means F is analytic in a neighborhood of infinity. That means infinity is an isolated singular point for F. And to check that F is analytic at infinity, I have to only check F is bounded at infinity. But why is that true? That's because I have normal convergence at infinity. Okay, which is normal convergence if you change the variable to 1 by W and look at W equal to 0. Okay, now you will use the second part of the definition of normal convergence, which is compact convergence. I mean normal convergence at infinity. You use that, and then you are done. Okay, so now we also have also Fn of 1 by W converges to F of 1 by W in normally in a neighborhood of 0, of W equal to 0. This is the second part of the definition. Okay, and mind you, that's you could have taken a small enough open disk at the origin, which will be a domain. It will be connected. Okay, in fact, it would even be simply connected. Okay, and now on that domain, okay, you look at the Fn's. Okay, the point is that each of the Fn's is also analytic at infinity. You see, look at what was given to me. What was given to us? We have started with a sequence of holomorphic functions on D, and we are looking at infinity and we have assumed infinity belongs to D, it means that each Fn is already analytic at infinity. Each Fn is already analytic at infinity. Okay, that means Fn of Z is analytic at Z equal to infinity. That means Fn of Z is bounded at Z equal to infinity. That means Fn of 1 by W is bounded at W equal to 0. And because the F is the normal limit of the Fn's, F of 1 by W will also be bounded at W equal to 0. And that is the same as saying that F is analytic at infinity, and you are done. Okay, so that's it. So let me write this down. Now, since each Fn is analytic at infinity, each Fn of W is analytic at 0. So F of 1 by W is bounded at 0, which means F is analytic at infinity. Thus, if F is not identically infinity, then F is also holomorphic on D. And that's the proof. Okay. So you see, you are able to extend the theorem that we already proved, that a normal limit of analytic functions can either be analytic or it will be identically infinity, even if your domain contains infinity. You are able to do that. Okay. And the technical point was to deal with normal convergence at infinity, and that is cleverly done by translating a neighborhood of infinity into a neighborhood of 0 by inverting the variable, which is the usual philosophy that we have always been using to study the point at infinity. Okay, fine. So see, the same kind of argument will give you the corresponding theorem for it will give you this the corresponding theorem for meromorphic functions. Okay, so let me write that down. Theorem: let Fn be a sequence of meromorphic functions on a domain D in the extended complex plane. Suppose Fn converges normally on D, then either the limit f equal to limit Fn is identically infinity on D, or it is meromorphic on D. Okay, so so this is just extending the previous theorem to the meromorphic case. Okay, but now the point is that essentially you want to deal with the domain which contains the point at infinity. And what is the proof? Proof is exactly the same. Okay, the proof is exactly the same. Let me write it out. If D does not contain infinity, this has already been proved. So assume D contains infinity. Okay, we have that F is meromorphic on D minus infinity. Okay, so again let me stop and say a couple of things. Please remember that when you say normal convergence now, okay, it's uniform convergence on compact subsets, alright, but either you must look at compact subsets of D minus infinity, or you should look at compact subsets of a neighborhood of the origin with the variable inverted. That's the point. Okay, and and in both cases for the variable you are using only the Euclidean metric, but for the function values you are using the spherical metric. Okay, you have to remember that. That's a big difference. And the other important thing is that, you know, you are trying to make use of the theorems that you've already proved for a domain in the usual complex plane, and trying to deduce the corresponding theorems when the domain contains the point at infinity. Okay, so these are things that you should highlight in your mind. Okay, so you see, so let me repeat what I said. If infinity is not in D, then D is a usual domain, and you know, for a limit of meromorphic functions, the limit can either be identical infinity or it can be meromorphic. Okay, and mind you, this is a very important thing. You know, it tells you that normal limits are good, because after all, what's a meromorphic function? A meromorphic function is analytic except for poles. Okay, but when a function goes to a limit, the limit function could be horrible. See, the limit function could have been an analytic function with non-pole singularities. It could have been an analytic function with essential singularities, or even worse, the limit could have been an analytic function with non-isolated singularities. Such horrible things could have happened, but the fact is normal convergence prevents that. See, normal convergence, you know, is always it's locally uniform convergence. Okay, because every point has a neighborhood which is compact. Okay, so at every point you can find a neighborhood, a compact neighborhood where you will have uniform convergence, and therefore you on that neighborhood also you will have uniform convergence. So it is locally uniform convergence, normal convergence is, and therefore because of the local uniformness everything nice happens. You know, the moment you have uniform convergence, limits of continuous functions are continuous, limits of analytic functions are analytic, and so on. But this is happening globally, alright. And there is one more thing that I have to tell you, that here the moment I assume Fn is a sequence of meromorphic functions on the domain which contains a point at infinity, and I assume that it converges, then mind you, a unique limit function is already defined. That's because, you know, the Fn's are meromorphic and therefore they are continuous, and I told you that whenever you take a continuous limit of continuous functions, if you take a normal limit, then the limit function is continuous even though your definition of normal convergence has been split into two pieces, one for the puncture domain with infinity puncture and the other for a neighborhood of infinity, thought of as a neighborhood of the origin. Okay, so even this existence of f, a uniform function f, a single function f, is because of the continuity of all these functions, because meromorphic functions are continuous functions considered as functions into the extended complex plane. That's something that you should not forget. Okay, so alright, so if you take the domain which contains a point at infinity, then D minus infinity is a usual domain in the usual complex plane, and we have already proved a theorem for that. So the function f is meromorphic on D union infinity, or its f is identically infinity on D minus infinity. Okay, so this is something that we have already proved. We have that f is meromorphic on D minus infinity, or f is identically infinity on D minus infinity. Alright, and again the same old argument, if f is identically infinity on D minus infinity, then it has to be infinity at infinity because of continuity of f. Okay, so we have to only deal with the condition when f is not identically infinity, right? So let me write that down. So if if f is identically infinity on D minus infinity, then f is identically infinity on D as f is continuous continuous on D, in fact continuous at infinity. Okay, so if f is not identically infinity, we have f is meromorphic on D minus infinity. Okay, and therefore infinity becomes a singular point. Okay, infinity is certainly a singular point because the problem now is slightly more complicated. As it stands, it looks, you can say infinity is a singular point, but you cannot immediately say that infinity is an isolated singular point. That's the point, that's the issue. See, infinity is a singular point because in if you take d minus infinity, there are only poles. On d minus infinity, f is, you know, it's meromorphic. So on d minus infinity, there are poles, and poles are of course isolated. So as far as d minus infinity is concerned, all the singular points are isolated, but infinity itself may be a non-isolated singular point. It could happen. Poles could accumulate at infinity. If you have a sequence of singular points going to a point, then that point is cannot be an isolated singular point. So you have this problem. But then that will not happen because of the normal convergence at infinity. Because what is happening at infinity is being controlled by what is happening when the variable is inverted and in a neighborhood of 0. Okay. So let me say this. Now in a neighborhood of w equal to 0, fn of 1 by w converges to f of 1 by w normally, and what I want you to understand is that you change the variable from z to 1 by w, alright, and if you are looking at z not equal to infinity, you are looking at w not equal to 0, okay, and the point I want to make is that even at w equal to 0, I want to say that the fn's, okay, they continue to be meromorphic. That's because it's already given to you. See, what is given to you is that each of these functions is meromorphic on D. So infinity, the point infinity which is in D, can either be a pole by itself for each of the fn's, or it can be a point of analyticity. Infinity cannot be any worse. Okay, so that means each of these fn's of 1 by w are meromorphic in a neighborhood of w equal to 0. Okay, but this neighborhood of w equal to 0, on that neighborhood, that's the usual neighborhood of the complex plane, and you have a normal convergence of a sequence of meromorphic functions. Therefore, the limit function can be either identically infinity or it can be meromorphic. But the limit function is not identically infinity because f is not identically infinity. Okay, so f of 1 by w has to be, you know, a meromorphic function at w equal to 0. That means you are saying f of z is meromorphic at infinity, and you're done. Okay, so you escape, and you get the proof of the statement that you want. So let me write that down. So let me write this, and since each fn is each fnz is meromorphic on D, fn of 1 by w is meromorphic on neighborhood of w equal to 0. So f of 1 by w is meromorphic at 0, at w equal to 0, as f is not identically infinity. So f of z is also meromorphic at infinity, and we are done. Okay, and so this horrible thing of infinity being a non-isolated singular point for f does not happen. So you see, we are still in a very nice situation. Okay, so what I need to do what we need to do next is try to generalize the Montel theorem and Marty's theorem for the case of meromorphic functions, and we will do that in the next lecture.